For many of us, today is a day that greets us with sadness and grief. On an evening in Memphis, Tennessee, on April 4th, at 6:05 p.m., standing on the second floor balcony of the Lorraine Hotel, the leader and visionary, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was taken from us. 54 years later, we come to this moment to honor his legacy and impact that could not be silenced by a bullet. While his mortal body was taken from us on April 4th, it did not rob his soul or his legacy. On today, we celebrate the life of a man who boldly fought for equity, equality, and the progression of marginalized communities. The power of his words and acts of nonviolent resistance are as needed and impactful today as they were many years ago. Through peaceful protests, grassroots organizing, and civil disobedience, Dr. King had a profound impact on our society and accomplished what many viewed at the time as impossible. During these turbulent times, his legacy serves to remind us that the moral progress is only made possible by those who continue to fight. For me, Mr. Speaker, I often ask myself, why does the death of someone who was murdered, taken from his family many years before I was even born, why does it hurt so much? And the answer is pretty simple. It's because we mourn all that could have been. Had Dr. King not been taken from us by white supremacy, would it have taken another 40 years before we inaugurated our first Black president? Would it have taken 50 years to inaugurate the first Black woman as vice president? And would we take this long to see a Black woman ascend to our highest court? And those are questions that we don't know the answer to. But what we do know is that on April 4th, a husband, a father, a leader in his community, he was not lost, he was taken. And the current social climate requires that we stay committed to his mission. While we have come a long way since his assassination, it is more than evident that there is still more work to do. We've seen monumental advancements in addressing racial injustice, but we see it every day in the coded language, in the use of his image, in the attempts to try to undermine racial progress. We see that his life and legacy is needed now more than ever. I hope that as we remember him today, it will ignite in us to continue the fight for justice, for equality. And we will honor him by speaking truth, bold truth, and inconvenient truth. And that we'll remember his words when we get down, when we get sad, when we are grieved by what we see in the political and cultural space today. That we'll remember that we may not get there today, or maybe even not tomorrow. But as Dr. King says, we will get to the promised land someday. I move that when the House adjourns today, we do so in honor and memory of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
The delegate from Prince William moves that when the House adjourns today, it do so in the honor and memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As many as favor that motion will please rise. The motion is agreed to.